Hi and welcome back to our analysis of Season 4 of Black Mirror. This is Episode 2, Arkangel. And before we get into the meat of the matter, how it does what it does, I just want to say that yes, this is Jodie Foster's entry into the Black Mirror universe from a directorial standpoint. And I think she does a good job. Whilst I haven't seen the pages in question, a director's job is to convey what's there onto the screen. And from the fact that, the narrative seems to flow pretty well, the shots service it, there's no glaring errors, I would say she did a good job. One of the favourite things of mine that she does, again just speaks to one of my big loves, which is visual storytelling, as anyone who's been on this channel for any length of time will tell you. And the fact that she uses the transitions to show Sarah's aging, not like a thing on screen saying 3 years later or 5 years later or anything like that. It's just a very simple thing of different girls walking past a shot. That's it. We just see older girls walking past to show the passage of time and that Sarah is aging, and we're seeing that with her. It's a very simple technique. It's been used before. It'll be used in the future. If I ever get the opportunity and the inspiration for a story that will work for it, I would probably use it too. It's, again, good visual storytelling, so I'm really happy with her contribution. This is a family drama in Black Mirror's clothes, and her style really suits it. But let's get into that family drama, shall we? So from the get-go, we are given a scene that shows Marie's character wonderfully. Some people may have thought, why do we need to see the birth scene? Because it gives us Marie's character. We see that she feels like a failure, as many mothers do who don't deliver naturally. It's a very common thing, which is why, the nurse is like, no, it's fine. It is a common thing that they hear, but it's not a failure, Sometimes your body just doesn't want to play ball. But we also see her neurosis, and yes, okay, a baby not breathing that you've just brought into the world is a worry for any new parent. But it just speaks to how, she does worry a lot, which is good, I suppose, in some ways when it comes to your children, but we do see that this is not just a normal, oh, she's not breathing, should I be worried, into a full-blown, what is going on, why is she not breathing? It's this tendency to blow things out of proportion, which, as someone with chronic anxiety, I fully understand. But like I say, this gives us Marie's character. She's neurotic, overprotective, and feels like a failure. That's what we need to know about her character, and we get most of that here. But her overprotectiveness and her almost control freak nature, do lead into not only her getting the Arkangel, obviously there is an inciting incident, but even with her father, Sarah's granddad, trying to feed her, and she just takes control. She's just like, no, that's enough. I'm taking her out. It all leads us into the fact that she's very controlling. She wants what's best for her child, like all parents. But she goes to extremes. If I were to give a message of the episode, I would say that it's stop nannying your children so much. Her own father even says something very similar to her.
I'm 2,000 years old, and I remember when we used to open up the door and just let the kids pee.
And I remember breaking my arm because you wouldn't get a baby gate.
And how is that arm now?
Seems okay.
And he's right. Aside from her neuroses, she's grown up okay. She's got into adulthood. She's had a child of her own. I don't think she's that broken, and her arm clearly also works. So it's all indicative of this character, and I think she may have potentially gone for the Arkangel system, even without the inciting incident. I think it's the kind of thing that she might have at least seriously looked into. The fact that Sarah went missing just gave her a reason to, I guess, or an excuse, whatever you want to call it. But she does go ahead. She goes to the lab, she gets it implanted, and one of the things that came to my mind in this season full of callbacks and Easter eggs, when we see the parental controls in effect, it brought back both White Christmas and Men Against Fire, because it's very much like the blocking and the mass system, respectively. This idea of removing negative stimuli so you can just get on with your life or your job, as the case may be. It's just a wonderful extra element, like I say, in this particular season where we're getting so much of this. I just picked up on it so quickly. But, you know, she goes home, you know, and Sarah gets accustomed to her life now, with her mother always being able to kind of watch over her shoulder, but a little closer than that, actually. But one of the interesting things from the lab is, again, just showing Marie's controlling nature. The technician says, "Oh, bit low on iron, maybe you want to get some supplements," and she looks put out. But she does still take the advice, and that's very interesting. We see parents like this all the time. They're like, "Don't tell me how to parent my child," but if it's good advice, on the sly, they'll take it. You know, we see her start to give her these smoothies with the supplements added into it in the blender. But yeah, so now Sarah is living a life with this oversight, and unfortunately she almost witnesses, or half witnesses, the death of her granddad. We see early on one of the issues with the parental controls being very much like the blocking. You know, as soon as there's a cortisol spike, you know, stress response, all of a sudden she can't really hear or see her granddad properly when obviously he's ailing. And this is very worrying. You know, it's a good job that she's 100% committed. So she's always got the tablet with her, because otherwise her dad may not have made it. Whilst a lot of the heavy negative elements of it do come sort of midway and really in the latter part of the episode, I think this was an early element of kind of, yeah, here's a downside for you. There's one that you probably didn't think about, did you? But of course, you know, Sarah grows up, she's at school now, and she's got a friend, Trick, who loves showing very interesting videos to his friends, but everyone knows that she's an Arkangel guinea pig, really. Even though they say they're not guinea pigs, they are, if you think about it. You know, and they know that she can't see these things. But it brings up another problem with this Arkangel system. She can't see blood, she can't see violence, she can't see sexual acts, she can't see anything. And children grow through curiosity and experimentation and trying things out. They don't grow by having everything shut out from them. Whilst we see the positives in the fact that she can go past the barking dog without any problem, there are a lot of negatives here, and it comes to a head in many ways with her stabbing a finger. You know, I have a thing about things happening to fingers. It's just a weird thing. This was a very unpleasant scene for me, even with it being blurred out partially. But it shows how much the curiosity and everything else really that comes with being a child is squashed. And it's only through the recommendation of a specialist that Marie even thinks about giving her wings, if you will, letting her be free of the Arkangel system, stopping the oversight. But the problem with Marie, like I said before, she's very neurotic, very controlling. She can't just give it up. This is like a drug for her. It's all-encompassing. She can't just let it go. And this unfortunately leads into much of the latter part of the episode, the culmination, the last act, etc., and a lot of the more darker elements of it. And really her decision to look at the tablet, you know, when, again, Sarah's much older, you know, in her teens now, led me on a weird voyage of discovery and research. My own curiosity was piqued, you might say. And I was very curious as to the rights of the child, particularly when it comes to privacy. As adults, we expect a certain level of privacy, but as reasonable human beings, we also expect that children should be looked after and given certain rights as well, including the right to privacy. conversely, we know as parents that sometimes we may have to step in when our children are doing things, or when we think our children might be doing things, to at least investigate and make sure that they're not coming to harm. It is a parental responsibility, after all, to look after your child. So it really sort of got me curious, because I was wondering whether it would arguably be a breach of privacy that Marie commits, and I was wondering, is there a magic number somewhere in law that says at this age your child has a full right to privacy and everything that comes with it? There isn't. The legalities surrounding the rights of the child are very sketchy, and it only took UNICEF to really do something to cement that. They created the Convention on the Rights of the Child, and there is material linked below if you want to look into it more. But basically, it's been ratified in a number of developed countries around the world, including the US, where this is set, and this side of the pond as well. And it just basically gives the same rights that we can expect from the Universal Declaration and whatever version may exist in your country of those rights to children. And part of that is the right to privacy. It does recognise that parents may sometimes need to step in. Whilst in most rights legislation, no right can supersede another, in this case parents can sort of get a bit of flexibility. That said, we know Sarah in the latter part of the episode is about 15. Marie even says so to Trick. But she would arguably have more of a right to privacy because of developing, being a teenager, etc. So I would consider Marie is definitely breaching that right by retaking up the tablet. Like I say, I was more curious about the legality of it, but the fact that there isn't a set number, I think, just reinforces my belief on this even more. But like I say, it does lead into a lot of the darker elements of this episode once she's picked it up again. And Trick at this age seemed familiar to me. At first I thought maybe it was Patrick Hockstetter from the 2017 version of It, but I thought, no, he doesn't look quite like that. No, that's Owen Teague. I looked it up. It's the same guy. I don't know why I convinced myself it wasn't, but yeah, it's the same guy. Patrick Hockstetter is Trick. There you go. Bet you didn't know that before. Or if you did, well done. But we see through him that Marie's overbearing nature, her controlling nature, her neurotic nature, is actually less caring and kind than we would like to believe. Trick's actually rather caring to her. He doesn't want her to know what he's doing. She knows anyway. She figures it out. But he even says, don't have any, please. And she cajoles him. She goes, go on, go on, go on. Because like I said before, curiosity is how children learn. And teenagers, the curiosity comes from sex and drugs, unfortunately. In most cases, anyway. So she wants to explore these things, and as far as she's aware, Mummy still doesn't know. She's probably not calling her Mummy at this age, though, or Mommy, to Americanise it. But she doesn't know that she's watching, and this is why she just goes for it. But in a way, that reinforces my earlier point that the nannying system is too much, because she wouldn't have explored these things. She might have, as an adult, gone to drugs and things like that, and then gone into a deep wrong area, rather than exploring it at a young age where she can bounce back and just go, okay, I know what it is now. But like I say, this is where it really gets heavy, because Marie goes crazy. She witnesses, them consummating their relationship, if you will, and just really goes on a mad one, and witnesses her taking drugs, etc. And she just gets to a point of just horribleness, causing Sarah more harm, more emotional harm anyway, because Trick is now shunning her. At Marie's insistence, again, showing how Trick is looking out for Sarah's best interests. It's like, okay, I don't want to cause a problem with your mum, so I will avoid you. I don't want that issue for both of us. Again, he's really sweet and caring when you think about it. But, we see throughout, this growing fear and distrust in Marie. And it comes to a head, of course, when she secretly gives her some tablets, which we don't know what they are at first. I mean, yeah, we could have perhaps figured it out. I didn't. It didn't click for me. But it made me think, so does this show some kind of markers to show pregnancy? Because at the age that you could theoretically be pregnant, you would be enough of a physical adult, if you will, that I think the right to privacy is completely out of question. You would have it. You know, doctors have patient confidentiality with teenagers and children in certain things, as she's told at school when she finds out she was given an emergency contraception pill. And it clearly says that Marie is very much in the wrong here. You know, yes, Sarah's doing things that no parent wants to know their child is up to. But sorry parents, kids do these things, and teenagers particularly do these things. If you think back, you probably did similar. So all of this just leads to the end when Sarah figures it out. It was going to take something. Something was going to happen. There was going to be a slip up. And she realises that Marie's actually been watching her. And there's that really creepy shot, I find, you know, when Marie's looking at the tablet and you see her from behind. It's a really good horror shot. I mean, I've seen it in a few of these horror shorts I've been watching recently. But it's so creepy when you can see yourself from behind when you're looking at something. It's just that idea that someone's watching you and you can see them watching you. It's just a very creepy thought, I think, to a lot of people, myself included. But of course that does lead to Sarah really letting her frustrations out on her mum, shall we say. And horrible as it sounds, it's very hard to feel sympathy for Marie in this scene. Whilst it's not pleasant, you know, it's not pleasant to watch, and it wouldn't be pleasant to experience and feel that, she's kind of brought it on herself. Like I said before, you know, parents don't want to know that their kids are up to certain things, and if they can, they might try and put blocks in the way. You know, a little heartbreak now to prevent more in the future. But in this situation, it really backfires, and I find it hard to sympathise with Marie. And in the end, she loses her daughter. For good? Possibly. There are many children out there who have issues at home, and they have parents who try to control every aspect of their lives. You know, and in some ways you could argue that Marie is doing some kind of emotional abuse here, which is very wrong. You know, there's some links down below if, you know, people out there have suffered or know someone who is suffering from these kind of situations, because it's not a good thing. It can really damage a child permanently into adulthood. It can give them many psychological issues, it can lead them to substance abuse, and it's just something that is universally deplorable. You know, so like I said, there's some material down there for people who, you know, emotionally or otherwise, you know, if you need help, there are avenues out there, you know, and I hope I can give you a bit of a help to look. But that's really what this episode's looking at. It's the don't nanny your children too much, but also controlling people is abuse, and that's wrong. So like I say, it starts out fairly pleasant, you know, with a cute kid. She's really cute, to be honest, the first version of Sarah, the 3-year-old. But it really goes to some dark material, and to some real-world material. I think Marie was coming from a good place, at least to her. Throughout the episode, we can generally get the impression that her intentions are pure. And it does sometimes happen. You know, abusers sometimes feel they're doing what's best. And maybe in those cases, they need help as much as the abused. Not to excuse their actions, of course, but it could prevent situations like this if, say, Marie's neurosis or her feelings of failure were dealt with. And that's what Black Mirror does well. It gets us to look at things from many angles. And arguably, on that kind of note, there is hope still for Marie. Now that she's lost her daughter due to her actions, if she sees this as a wake-up call to deal with her own issues, she could repair that relationship. And that's the note I want to leave on, a hopeful note. Because next week, we're touching Crocodile, and that is dark as anything. So I hope you'll come back to join me, and again, like I say, if you're dealing with any of the problems raised in the episode and this video, there are links down below, hopefully, where you can get some help and advice. So until next time, as always, take care.